ASAP includes a 3D viewer for the visualization of geometry, traces, as well as analysis. This feature has been recently enhanced to more efficiently prepare your geometries for 3D viewing. Let's take a look at some of the other things we can do within the 3D viewer. For example, I can hide certain aspects of the geometry, and then I can zoom in on other items. This allows us to see in more clear detail some of the smaller features of our system, in this particular case, an automotive headlamp that's come from the Bro Light Source Library, and of course from this you can see the detail that we build into our source library models. Let's bring back our reflector as well, simply by making it visible, and now I can look at it in a standard view, or I can use my mouse buttons or keyboard options to zoom in and out and to rotate the file. I also can choose to change the background color to black or white, depending upon my preferences, and I can also choose to look at the system's coordinate origin so I can get an idea of what the relative positioning of each of my components are relative to this global axis. I can also choose to look at my entire system using Wireframe. In this particular case, because the reflector was selected, only the reflector is shown in the wireframe form. If I chose the whole object, for instance a lit wireframe, I will make both the reflector as well as the source into the wireframe version. And let's temporarily turn off our axes, and again we can see some of the detail and structure of our light source model. Okay. Another key capability of our 3D viewer is that we can choose to add in other forms of analysis, so we can look at analysis as well as the geometry at the same time. And what I'm going to do is make the whole system visible, and I'm going to choose to make it back to being a smooth shaded model. It's my preference. Now what I'm going to do is just come over here and choose to add a file. And in particular, what I'm going to do is look at the output information from a bird's eye view, which is what is the intensity pattern from this automotive headlamp on the road well in front of the light. So I'm just going to select a previously saved file from my analysis. And now what I can see is both my geometry, which of course is rather small compared to the scale of my footprint on the road, as well as the results of the analysis. And again, I can come over here and choose to zoom in here. And again, my full geometry is available. And as I start to scroll out, I get to see the results of the analysis. Another important capability of the ASAP 3D viewer is what you can do externally to ASAP. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to minimize ASAP. I could actually close it as well, and I'm going to open a separate executable that's called the Bro 3D Viewer. This viewer is available to you on your ASAP installation. You can also go up to the Bro website, go to our software installation page, and download this as well. And what this allows me to do is, again, open up the geometry and the graphics, and I've just previously opened them so we can take a look at them now. So here's my geometry, including the source and the reflector, and I can choose to adjust the ambient light pattern and the direction of the light, reorient it and rotate it. And again, I can also open up my footprint, my bird's eye file, and again take a look at this information. Now obviously this is exactly the same thing we were looking at in ASAP, however we are totally external to ASAP. So this would allow me to, for instance, when I'm creating a paper or maybe a project review document, I might select a particular orientation that I thought gave a nice visual impression of what my system looked like, but at a meeting, or I could email to someone at a separate location these files, including a link to the 3D viewer, and allow them to take a look at the output, the analysis, zoom in and look at some of the geometry features, look at everything on a scale, and they would not need to have ASAP on the computer. They would not need to be running ASAP at the same time. So this gives someone who does not have ASAP, or an ASAP user who's at a computer away from their ASAP, the ability to visualize the ASAP geometry and analysis without having to run ASAP.